Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I actually want to talk about a game that to me, I thought it was really interesting, but I think the narrative is as interesting as anything else. Kentucky versus Illinois, okay? So we talked on Friday night's live show. Kentucky coming into the NCAA tournament. You know, listen, I can only go based on what I see on social media, the people that I know, the people that cover the team, the people that I talk to, fans that I know. But it felt like there was definitely a little bit of tension with Kentucky. We all know the history. You lose in 2022 to a 15 seed. You lose in 2023 in the second round of the tournament after beating a Providence team that had basically quit on Ed Cooley because Ed Cooley had taken the Georgetown job quietly behind the scenes. And then, of course, last year you lose to Oakland, coaching change happens, etc. Well, you survive game one, and survive's the wrong word. You dominate. You dominated Troy. You took care of business, whatever. But I bring it up because going into Sunday, there was a lot of talk from a lot of people of, well, okay, you get your win, you get that monkey off your back, but, you know, Kentucky's banged up, and Illinois' got dudes, and Yakashonis is a lottery pick, and what about Trey White, and what about Kylan Boswell? Yeah. Turns out it does not matter, as Kentucky, really the start to finish victory. I see people in the comments saying, oh, they only won by 9. They were in control from beginning to end. They get the victory 84-75. And let me say this. I know, again, nobody's throwing a pity party for Kentucky because of all the injuries they've dealt with. But I think when you factor in what Mark Pope inherited, which is 0 players in the middle of April, also what has happened during the season, all these injuries, we're going to talk about him in a second, and what he has done to get the team to this point, he absolutely 100% deserves credit. And yes, by the way, I don't think it's ironic or, forgotten that Mark Pope is in the Sweet 16. His former school, BYU, is in the Sweet 16. And of course, Arkansas is as well. But it just shows you, one, I think that coaching change was the right move for everybody involved. But two, I'll also say this. It doesn't take 5 years anymore. It doesn't take 2 years. If you have the right coach and you have the right resources behind you, you can make moves right away. Mark Pope, the latest first-year head coach to make the Sweet 16. By the way, also worth noting that Dusty May, first year at Michigan as well. I think that's kind of an interesting note. 4 first-year coaches in the Sweet 16. In the portal era, you don't need time. You need the right coach. You need the right guy. You need the right NIL resources, and you can make it happen. But let's get to Kentucky. And I think the thing that stands out to me about Kentucky in this win is the following. It was really, like I said, a start-to-finish win, and something really struck me as I was watching that game. Whatever you think of Mark Pope, oh, he hadn't won a tournament game coming in. First of all, I never cared about that. He was in the WCC and the WAC for most of his career, 1 year in the Big 12. But when I look at Mark Pope, what stands out to me, and I was thinking about this watching the Illinois game, I can't say I can't ever remember all season long. But really, you go through this season, outside of maybe the Ohio State game, maybe the Ole Miss game, what has been so impressive about Mark Pope, his team always comes out ready to go, always comes out focused, always comes out prepared. And that was the case in this game. Like I said, you're in Milwaukee. The crowd is absolutely pro-Illinois. Illinois is as healthy as they've ever been. You're banged up as you've been basically all season long. And you come out, you're up like 10-2, something like that. I know it was 20-13 at some points. And 20-13 at one point, you're up by 7 at the half. And again, I'm not saying that Illinois didn't make runs, but there was never a moment where you're like, oh, Kentucky's going to lose this game, or, oh, it's getting too close for comfort. It was kind of the opposite. It was like Kentucky got up on a lead, and they just kind of hit cruise control for the final 30 minutes. And when I say cruise control, I don't mean they let their foot off the gas. I mean, they kind of just maintained a dominant level. It was just a really impressive effort. And so when I look at kind of the totality of this Kentucky season, I think a couple things stand out. One, I think what I said is true. Mark Pope, one of the most impressive things is the preparedness, I think I said that word right, of his teams. No, every single game hasn't been perfect. The Ohio State game before Christmas is the one that comes to mind. But for the most part, every single game that matters, his team has absolutely been ready to play and execute it out of the gate. Now, you could argue there's other, I mean, like, but even the Arkansas game, it's not that Kentucky didn't execute. It's just that Arkansas executed as well. So, same with Florida when they came to Rupp, same with Alabama when they came to Rupp. So his teams were always ready to go, always prepared. And then listen, I know it's beating a dead horse, and I know that everybody deals with injuries, but what they have done this season with the injuries that they've had and the manner in which they've had them, it's absolutely unbelievable as far as I'm concerned. Now, coming into the season, I thought they'd be better than people expected, but the counter to that is, and Pope said this in his presser going into the NCAA tournament, there's something like bottom 10 in the country out of like 360 teams, the bottom 10 in terms of the minutes that were actually, like, basically, if you take the expected minutes of the players that they expected to play, and then the amount of minutes that were actually played, they were bottom 10 in the country in that stat. And I'm sorry that I don't have the name of the stat off the top of my head, but the bottom line is this team's been dealing with injuries basically nonstop since before Christmas, okay? Kirk Risa goes down with the foot injury at Gonzaga. That was like the first week of December. Kirk Risa, foot injury, out for, we didn't know it at the time, but basically out for the year. Then Andrew Carr hurts his back. He's in and out of the lineup. You lose to Georgia. He comes back. Then Lamont Butler gets hurt. Then Jackson Robinson gets hurt. Then I think Lamont came back and got hurt again. Then they both came back for the Oklahoma game. Jackson Robinson goes out, and he's not this, he's out for the year. Lamont Butler I love Lamont. He was phenomenal, by the way, on Sunday, but he has not been the same since what? Middle of SEC play, beginning of SEC play. I mean, he's just been banged up. He's been beat up. It's been one injury after another with that kid. And that, to me, is the impressive thing about Kentucky. And so for them to do all of this, and then for them to get to the Sweet 16, considering all of it, it's unbelievable, right? Because I think when you go through a coaching change, and by the way, all of these coaches have talked about it. So it's not just Mark Pope. Calipari's talked about it at Arkansas. But the bottom line is it takes time to build a culture, to put together a roster, one, to build a culture, to do whatever, to do this, to do that. And so if you go back to the day that Mark Pope was hired, early to middle of April of 2024, and I think if you had asked most Kentucky fans, oh, by the way, you don't have a roster, none of your players are coming back, Mark Pope had never won a tournament game, he didn't have a staff. If you said the minimum is the Sweet 16, I think you'd absolutely have taken it, especially given the NCAA tournament struggles of before, but then certainly when you realize everything that has happened this year, multiple injuries, multiple guys in and out of the lineup, multiple points. You're playing guys, Trent Noah, Colin Chandler, Travis Perry. I'm not saying they were supposed to redshirt, but they weren't supposed to be playing the way that they're playing now in the minutes that they were supposed to be playing. And you still find ways to win games. And oh, by the way, you've done it in this incredible first season that includes win over Duke, might be the number one team in the country. Win over Florida, might be the number one team in the country. That was when you were fully healthy. You sweep Tennessee. You, of course, beat Texas A&M, who was a top 15 team most of the year. You win at Mississippi State. You win on the buzzer at Oklahoma. I mean, just a ton of incredible wins. And I know I'm missing a few. You beat Gonzaga in Seattle. You go on and on down the list. It is unbelievable what this team has done, given everything. And so I just want to take a moment, give Mark Pope his flowers. I don't know what's going to happen from here, but even a guy that was high on Kentucky coming into the year, one, I didn't know they were going to beat Duke, and I didn't know Florida's going to be this good, and you beat them, and you, of course, you sweep Tennessee. But two, what he is doing, given the injuries, I think is especially incredible. So credit to Mark Pope, NCAA tournament, Sweet 16 in year one. And here's the crazy part. You're going to Indianapolis now. And I know Indianapolis is just as easy of a drive for Tennessee fans as it is for Kentucky fans. I know there's going to be a lot of Purdue fans there as well. But you don't mean to tell me BBN is going to take over Indy? By the way, Kentucky fans, if you are going to Indy, SeatGeek.com, use promo code Torres. You get $20 off your first purchase. And so make sure to take advantage of that. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres for your first purchase. But you're going to, I just don't know how, considering the injuries, just how could it have worked out better? You're in the Sweet 16. One, that's a success. Second weekend for the first time since 2019. Oh, by the way, you're playing don't tell Vols fans, because I know we got some of them in the chat. You're playing a team that you've beaten twice, and it's not like you beat them in November when you were at full strength. You've beaten them with all kind of guys in and out of the lineup. You kind of seem to have them figured out. Not saying it's going to happen. We'll preview all the Thursday, Friday games probably on Tuesday. But man, oh man, oh man, what a first season for Mark Pope. My man deserves some flowers. And yes, you can follow all of our Kentucky coverage. Torres on UK on Twitter. Torres on UK on Twitter.